I love all y'all a lot. You've been great fans. I love you. And I'll still be back, and we'll still be up in the winner's circle. Thank you very much.
In 1993, the legendary A.J. Foyt stepped out of his iconic number 14 for the final time. When he did, he still had a presence in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, but hadn't qualified a race in over a year. In the days leading into the 1992 Daytona 500, A.J. went through not one but two backup cars, driving Oldsmobiles entered by Richard Jackson and Don Bierschwal.
A.J. Foyt, currently running 37th position. That was the Eddie Bierschwal car a couple of days ago that A.J. is foraging on with this afternoon.
I'll tell you what I'm surprised to see, A.J. Foyt's car with a yellow bumper on the back of it. Yellow stands for rookie, and hey, it's a wonder A.J. didn't rip the bumper off before he got in the car.
A.J.'s next start wouldn't come until the inaugural Brickyard 400 in 1994, where he barely made the field and finished in 30th. He continued to attempt Cup races for the next 3 years, but soon after, his NASCAR team suspended operations. Now focused entirely on his open wheel program back in Texas, A.J. remained close with his children and grandchildren. Among these was Larry Foyt. Lawrence Joseph Roberts Foyt was born February 22, 1977, the same year A.J. became the first driver to win the Indianapolis 500 4 times. Larry's parents divorced when he was 2, and A.J. and his wife Lucy adopted him soon after. From there, he regarded his grandparents as his parents. "I'm still very close to my mom," said Larry of his biological mother Terry Foyt. "It's been great, because it's like I've got 2 moms. It's never been an issue." Larry played stick and ball sports in school, but by the 8th grade was interested in go-karts. But A.J. told Larry the same thing he told his sons Tony, who became a horse trainer, and Jerry, whose racing career didn't pan out. "Don't mess with that," he told him. Now in his 60s, A.J. was of 2 minds about his children following in his footsteps. Once he said, quote, "I tried never to talk against racing because it's done so much for me." Another time he said, quote, "I look back at some of the accidents I've had, the scars I have now, and the friends I've lost over the years, and I think, who would want that for their kids?" But Larry wanted to race, and he saved up enough money working as a janitor to buy his first go-kart. "I knew when I was just a little kid that racing was what I wanted to do," he said in 2001. Larry started to race in 1993, and 3 years later won the Texas State Championship in 125cc shifter karts. Through it all, A.J. proved a demanding coach. Wanting to make sure Larry was serious about racing, he once chewed his son out in victory lane because he didn't like the way he drove. "Perfectionist certainly sums it up," said Larry of his father. His motto is, "If you're second, you're the first loser." A.J. also demanded that Larry go to college, something A.J. himself regretted not doing in his own life. This was why in 1997, when Larry graduated to Formula 2000, A.J. insisted he keep up with his studies, allowing for only a part-time schedule. Though he finished 4th in his series debut at Phoenix, Larry was frustrated, believing he needed to give a full-time commitment to improve. But he followed through, ultimately graduating from Texas Christian University in May of 2000 with a degree in communications. But his heart was set on racing, and at Indianapolis in particular. Among Larry's most cherished memories was the first time Tom Carnegie announced his name over the PA system. "The hairs on the back of my neck stood up," he said. Growing up, he'd attended every Indianapolis 500 since 1984. "That race is the reason I wanted to be a race car driver," he said. "The people who drove there were heroes to me. It meant everything to me, and all I wanted as a kid was to race there." In 1999, Larry earned his Indy Racing League license after turning 212-mile-per-hour laps at Texas, but his career trajectory changed abruptly following a Formula 2000 race in Atlanta.
On the outside, oh! Car on its side, that's Larry Foyt. That is a massive crash there. Wow, that was a big wreck, Gary.
About 7 or 8 cars involved, and this could bring out a red. The yellow flag is out. We're looking at the start-finish line to see if, in fact, they do go to a red. And we'll have to recap who is involved in this massive, violent crash. We see a driver climbing out. Is that Larry Foyt?
He went upside down.
In the black driving suit, he was upside down, and he rolls on the ground as that Terre Haute First National Bank sponsorship.
Larry escaped without serious injury, but the wreck startled his adopted father. "I was scared," said AJ of the crash. "It looked bad, and he was very lucky. After that, I started to think about getting Larry into something else." That something else was stock cars, specifically the American Speed Association, or ASA. As it turned out, the kart IRL split had as much to do with AJ's decision as the wreck in Atlanta. "When I went racing and ran Indianapolis cars, that was the household name," said AJ. "Now it's NASCAR. I felt like if I'm going to be his father and try to direct him in the right way, this is where he needs to be." Larry had mixed emotions about, quote, racing these taxi cabs, as he called them. On top of learning an entirely different race car, Larry would also have to assume an ownership role at his ASA team, which allowed AJ to remain focused on his IRL program back in Texas. Despite the clear challenge he was facing, Larry's last name still caused him grief from his fellow competitors. "I think sometimes maybe I got spun out a few times because I was Foyt's kid," he said, "and I was trying to earn some respect and race clean. But like my dad said, you've got to root them right back or they're going to keep doing it." But the 23-year-old Larry proved a quick study. He finished 9th in his debut at the USA International Speedway, won his first pole at Winchester, and finished a season-best 5th in the season finale at Gateway.
Hi, I'm Larry Foyt, driver of the number 14 Harris Pontiac. I want to say thanks to my team for giving me a great car. We got our first pole position. Hopefully there'll be many more.
That same year, he made his ARCA debut at Charlotte, finishing 35th in a race won by Ryan Newman, and got his first taste of Winston Cup by trying to qualify for the 2000 finale at Atlanta. He missed the show, but his thoughts on stock car racing had already changed. "NASCAR is where racing is in America right now," said Larry. "It's been amazing to get into the stock car community and see how great it is, how tight it is. I'm glad my dad pushed me this way. He felt that stock cars was the place to be." Larry wanted to stay in ASA for the 2001 season, but sponsor Harrah's Entertainment Incorporated, which also backed AJ's IRL team, offered to pay for a full-season Busch Series effort. With that, AJ bought Busch cars that Ron Hornaday ran for DEI in 2000 and repainted them Harrah's purple. And just as at ASA, Larry would help operate the team, overseeing the preparation of his own cars, performing his own public relations, and managing both his budget and personnel. "He's got a good head on his shoulders, and he doesn't do anything stupid," said AJ of Larry. "If you watch him this year, I think you'll see how smooth he is on the racetrack." This announcement was made at Charlotte on October 8, 2000, just 5 months after the tragic death of another legacy driver in Adam Petty. It was a loss that Larry in particular felt deeply. "It's hard to explain, but you feel a certain connection, maybe because you're a driver," said Larry in 2001. "I don't know if all drivers do, but it kind of did with Adam Petty. People in ASA had already started to draw comparisons because Adam had run ASA the year before, and I was looking forward to racing against Adam someday on the Busch Series and having the Foyt and Petty names on the track together again. I saw a lot of neat things happening there. It was just such a loss. It's a feeling you hate to have, but you have it every time when these things happen. It reminds us in racing that it is a dangerous sport." In his first Busch race at Daytona, ironically the day before Dale Earnhardt would also lose his life, Larry had struggled. At one point he pulled low and lost 7 or 8 spots, causing AJ to yell at him to run the high line. In the end he finished 19th, completing every lap, and even led once under caution. "How many people can say that?" bragged AJ. "Sometimes he's yelling, sometimes he's saying good job," said Larry after the race. "But if you get a good job out of him, you know you did a good job." Through the rest of the 2001 season, only 3 times did Larry finish better than he had at Daytona. He returned in 2002, the first time his paint scheme was decorated with Harrah's $1 gaming tokens. With this car, he finished 10th at Rockingham, then 8th in a Talladega race where most of the field was obliterated in a multi-car accident on lap 15. Larry's own car was damaged in the wreck as he tried to escape to the high lane. But unfortunately, across those 2 seasons, most only knew Larry Foyt for what occurred on the afternoon of September 1st, 2001.
Steve Park and Larry Foyt.
What in the world?
I believe Foyt's a lap down because he made that penalty stop. I believe he was down to the inside trying to run up to the front on the double up.
Yep.
On 1 to go.
That's what they were doing, and I don't know what happened, but
and I believe Park was trying to scrub his tires.
yeah.
He zigged and Park zagged, and ouch.
This is unbelievable.
Some tore up race cars for a yellow.
Watch the top of your screen. You're going to see the purple car come into the picture. There's Foyt trying to get his way up to the front of the pack. Oh, Park got hit.
Oh, man.
Who's the yellow car behind Park?
Bad timing. Look at this.
Is that Dan Pardis?
Looks like
No,
he
Park just spun. He just lost it.
Either something obviously had to break on that car or something for the car to turn left that hard. He didn't just lose it at that speed.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's almost like an axle was broke or something for the car to turn like that.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you see the skid mark right there? There's a skid mark right there. That's off, I believe, Steve's tire there.
It looks like he was trying to lunge the car.
Driver's side of the car. And you see the safety workers there working with he and Larry Foyt. Bizarre. And we'll hope they're both okay. We'll keep an eye on the situation for you and come back to Darlington in a minute on TNT.
The more Larry struggled, the more doubters questioned his motivation. It's tough enough carrying the name in there, because everyone thinks I've just been given everything, probably, and that I've been racing my whole life, which just isn't the case. Really, I've raced 31 stock car races in my life. I'm not AJ Foyt, and I'm not trying to be AJ Foyt. I have goals of my own. He was the best there has ever been, so I'm not necessarily judging myself on his accomplishments because I think most of his accomplishments nobody will ever be able to match. I'm definitely going a different way, but I definitely have big plans to be successful. It was in 2000, the same year Larry made his debut in ASA, that AJ restarted his NASCAR Winston Cup team. After running Oldsmobile, then Ford the previous decade, the team now ran Pontiacs, just as Larry ran in ASA and ARCA. Their full-time Cup entry was again the number 14, this time with sponsorship from Indiana-based insurance company Conseco. Waddell Wilson helped the team get off the ground. AJ's first successful Daytona 500 bid in 8 years came with rookie driver Mike Bliss. At the time, Bliss had 7 Truck Series wins, but only 4 starts in the Cup Series.
Mike Bliss from out of the Craftsman Truck Series, and he drives for one of Daytona's legends. Dick Berggren's with him.
And A.J. Foyt is here in the truck watching his race car. How's he doing, A.J.?
Well, I don't know yet. You know, we're all sitting here just hoping he does a good job. He's practiced very good, and all we do is just hope for the best.
He said you were helping him with the line. What did you tell him about running here at Daytona?
Well, I told him the biggest thing is, you know, just keep running the same lines, and then maybe the second line just kind of tighten it up a little bit, because Waddell Wilson, Conseco, our sponsor, have done a fantastic job, and all the crews worked hard, and all we're doing is keeping our fingers crossed right now.
Glad to see you back, Supertex. Good luck at the Daytona 500.
Thank you very much.
Foyt won the pole for this race in 71, and he won the race for the Wood Brothers in 1972. This is Mike Bliss's first attempt to make the Daytona 500. He has 4 Winston Cup starts, 2 in 1998 and 2 last year. His wife Sue delivered their first child on the 9th of February, Brittany Taylor Bliss. First lap for Bliss, 186.776 miles per hour, 14th fastest.
He can pick that up about 0.4 of a second.
Now, Foyt's just out of the hospital. It says his doctor's hopping mad at him. He had some screws and rods taken out of his leg and was advised to stay home. Tell AJ to miss Daytona.
Yeah, they said they can make a front A-frame out of the metal they took out of his leg there, so... Yeah, he's doing well, though. You see he's down, doctor. Don't get too mad at him.
I tell you, this guy has a run going that can put him up there in the top 3. If he got through turn 3 and 4 okay, he was good going into turn 3.
So here's Mike Bliss, 7 times a race winner in the Truck Series and 15 poles.
Won't be in the top 3, but let's see where it's going to be. It's going to be close.
He is 6th fastest, Dick Berggren.
6 quick, AJ. How about that?
We're very happy with it. I mean, that's about what we practiced, a little bit faster than that, but just to back it up, he did a great job.
A rookie team. How do you run so fast with a rookie team?
Well, it's not really a rookie. I got Waddell Wilson, his boy, and all that, and all of us have been around for a few days, and like I say, the only rookie is actually the driver, and he's really no rookie. He's won Silver Crown races for us and everything else, so Mike's a great race driver.
So are you.
Bliss made the field for the Daytona 500, where he finished 33rd, but failed to qualify for the next 3 straight races. Bliss was released, and ultimately closed out his year replacing Jeff Fuller at Eel River Racing. This opened the door for 58-year-old Dick Trickle, who came into the season without a ride. Trickle qualified the car 12th on the grid at Darlington, then 21st at Bristol, and finished under power both times. but Trickle was himself replaced the very next race, the team's home track in Texas. Following a crash at Bristol, Rick Mast had just parted ways with Larry Hedrick Motorsports, opening the door for Gary Bradbury to make the team's final 2 starts. Mast ran the rest of the season in the number 14, and despite another 3 DNQs, earned some strong runs. He finished 12th at Loudon in July, and a season-best 8th the next round in Pocono, Mast's best Cup finish in more than 2 years. Like Trickle, he also showed the car had speed in qualifying, taking 3rd on the grid at Michigan, 4th at Richmond, and outside pole at Dover alongside Jeremy Mayfield. That day, Mast finished 10th, the 36th and final top 10 of his career. But AJ only considered Mast a fill-in driver and was ready to make another change for 2001. His new driver was Ron Hornaday Jr., the same driver whose Busch Series cars AJ bought after Hornaday's longtime sponsor Napa Auto Parts signed with Michael Waltrip's Cup ride for 2001. Although Dale Earnhardt worked out a deal to get Hornaday the ride with AJ didn't need much persuading. He'd taken notice of Hornaday back in the 80s when the two competed against each other in the Copper World Classic. "I knew his track record and how he drove," said AJ. "I watched him in trucks and I watched him in Busch. That's why we went after him."
Ron Hornaday's on the speedway. He's AJ Foyt's driver to start this season.
And I tell you one thing, he better pick it up a little bit, or he's going to have a hot Texan after him.
That's right about where he practiced, Darrell, within about 0.05 of a second. 2 wins in the Busch Series last year for Hornaday, 2-time truck racing champ. His dad, a West Coast racing champion, and his son, Ronnie, will make his Daytona debut this week.
And guys, no matter how hard I try to believe it, I just can't call him a Rookie of the Year.
No.
Even has a yellow stripe around the front bumper of that car.
For the second straight year, the number 14 would arrive at Daytona with rookie stripes on the rear bumper. Hornaday's rookie status was somewhat surprising, as he'd run in Cup races as far back as 1992 when the Winston West Series ran companion events with Cup. In that fateful Daytona 500, Hornaday rebounded from damage suffered in his twin 125 to battle for the lead. On lap 174, he was running behind Dale Earnhardt in the low lane when the big one struck. Ward Burton's car missed Earnhardt's car by inches and struck the passenger side door of the number 14. Hornaday fell back to 17th at the checkered flag. For the most part, the rest of Hornaday's 2001 season resembled that of Rick Mast in 2000. He finished 9th in the 3rd round at Las Vegas. 4 late-season DNQs were offset by a steady improvement in qualifying, 11th at Loudon, 3rd under the lights at Bristol, and 8th at both Dover and Phoenix. He even led laps in 3 races, most notably on April 8th at Martinsville, where ironically he started last on the grid. He led just after both the 100 and 200 lap marks, a credit to his pit crew.
Looking back at Ron Hornaday, now Hornaday is the 5th place car again because of that same strategy. I think Larry talked to the crew chief. He said he's very happy with the car and made some changes on it, really woke it up.
Well, he's working with a new crew chief this week, Fred Graves. Fred Graves was his crew chief in the truck series when he won so many races and won that championship. Didn't qualify good, made a bunch of changes on spindles and everything yesterday. Real happy with this car at the end of practice.
And if Ron Hornaday can't run good here, then there's probably not very many places he can, because this is the kind of track out in California he grew up on. And 1/5 of the fenders here are all torn up. And 3/4 of the cars are torn up. That's right, man. Everybody out there's got body damage. And look who has led his 8th race of the year, Mark Martin. But look who's trying to take it away from him. Come on, Supertex. Oh, that's not Supertex. That's Ron Hornaday.
Supertex's car. Yeah. Ron Hornaday, he wants the lead down into turn 1. And started getting fast.
Oh, this is exciting for those guys. Hornaday puts the Conseco Pontiac out front of Mark Martin. Let me tell you something, when this day's over with, that car might be in victory circle, but it won't have anything but a roof number on it, I can guarantee you that, because he'll wear it out. For more on Hornaday, Dick Berggren.
Ron Hornaday has done the incredible, the impossible today. At Martinsville, he has gone from 43rd, dead last, to 1st. And right now, you ready for this? It's the first time he has led a Winston Cup stock car race since October 30th, 1994. This pit crew is absolutely wild with enthusiasm. They think they got a shot to maybe win this thing today. Mike?
It looks good right this moment. I raced with him in the trucks here one time. I know one thing, he knows how to get around here. And he knows what he likes, and he's got a whole handful of it right now.
But radio issues led to a lengthy pit stop, and he eventually slid back through the field to finish in 27th. When 2002 arrived, AJ had changed drivers again, and for the third straight season would enter a Truck Series veteran in the Daytona 500. This time, it was Stacy Compton, who had just completed Melling Racing's final full-time season in the Cup Series.
Back in 1972, now he's a Winston Cup team owner. This is his car with Stacy Compton on board out of Hurt, Virginia, trying to make the field for the 500 for a third time. Checkered flag for Stacy, and let's see where his numbers shake out. 11th out of 15 who've qualified so far for the Conseco Pontiac.
While Compton qualified for all the season's first 19 races and timed in 6th at both Texas and Talladega, he finished no better than 18th and suffered 3 engine failures. This led to still another driver change with Mike Wallace, who closed out the year by salvaging a 10th at Bristol, an 11th at Homestead, and a 12th at Richmond. But after scoring their only DNQ at Sears Point, both Compton and Wallace were completely upstaged by a road course ringer at Watkins Glen.
And you got PJ, and PJ's been running really hard down into one all day, braking real late. So he's going to be a factor, and he's in the 14 car right there.
He looks like he really truly has had the best entry into one about any of these cars. Talking about the 14 of PJ Jones.
One reason the Cup team struggled was, ironically, that it was based in Mooresville, North Carolina, while the IRL team ran in Texas. AJ would later admit it was a mistake to try to run a Cup team remotely by making phone calls every day. At first, the one picking up the phone was his nephew Tommy Lamont, who was then fired for personal reasons. Larry himself took over from there, and now split time overseeing the Cup team, in addition to his second year racing and operating his Busch team. At the time, Foyt Racing had just 26 crew members, 3 fewer than Stacy Compton's Busch Series effort, ST Motorsports. Larry Foyt has done an outstanding job with what he's got to work with, and I'm really impressed with what he's done, said Compton in 2002. But it's a difficult job to be competitive in Winston Cup, and he needs help. He needs AJ around more, but of course AJ's got his IRL team to worry about in Houston. That's his baby. Through it all, Larry was steadily improving in the Busch Series, and again wanted to run another season to get comfortable. But just as in ASA, both AJ and Harrah's were pressuring him to make the leap, this time to Winston Cup. My dad's always been one to think that if you stay too long in one place, you're going to get stuck there, he said. I know he wants me to go to Winston Cup next year, but I really don't want to move up that fast. I'd like to have another year in Busch. We've had some pretty heated arguments. He's got his views on what worked back then, and I've got my more modern views, I guess you could say. I've always trusted his judgment on where my career is headed. It's allowed me to live a dream, so I'm not going to buck him any more than I have to. He's got a lot of experience, and wherever he wants me to go, I'll probably go. The pieces moved quickly. On November 7, 2002, Harrah's said they were no longer sponsoring AJ's IRL team and were set on NASCAR for 2003 with Larry driving in the Cup Series. AJ confirmed this on November 10th, and the Busch Series program ceased operations. On December 6, Larry did a shakedown test in a Cup car at the half-mile Caraway Speedway in Asheboro, North Carolina, logging 200 laps. Despite the difference in horsepower, Larry didn't feel a big difference from his Busch car to the Cup car, but did feel he could, quote, hustle it around more. Larry's laps compared favorably against Stacy Compton's at the same track earlier that year, and the team moved forward with their plans. With Larry assuming driving duties, AJ brought back Mike Chase, who raced his Cup car part-time in the 90s to serve as team manager. AJ also ended his engine program, and would instead get them from Evernham Motorsports, switching from Pontiac to Dodge in the process. These would be research and development engines, allowing Ray Evernham to test new parts for his own cars. I needed to make some changes within my team because I wasn't satisfied with the overall performance, said AJ. We had some good races, but we never found the consistency we needed to stay in the top positions. AJ lamented that his team had been, quote, so bad the last couple of years I didn't want to go racing because I was so embarrassed. I'm not used to running in the back. After AJ spent $5 million of his own money to keep his Winston Cup team afloat, 2003 was setting up to be an all-out go-for-broke season for his NASCAR team. There was one more wrinkle. The original plan was to enter Larry in a second Foyt car prepared in a shop across from the number 14 shop, keeping Mike Wallace in the number 14 for Conseco's 4th and final contract year. But on December 18th, catastrophe. Conseco filed for bankruptcy. The company's $52.2 billion value ranked them third highest in U.S. bankruptcies at the time, behind only WorldCom and Enron. Wallace was released from AJ Foyt Racing, and Larry was promoted to the number 14 with his Harrah's sponsorship. Mike Hillman, the team's crew chief, left on January 13th and would be replaced by Butch Lamoureux, who was Ashton Lewis's crew chief in the Busch Series. "I wanted to stay in Busch another year," Larry reiterated on January 24, 2003, "but my father really didn't like the pay scale in Busch. He was losing money on it, and AJ doesn't like to lose money. I threw him in there with a pack of wolves, maybe on purpose," said AJ on February 13, 2003. "It will be easier now, because he has a lot of supervision to lead him the right way. He's had a hard road coming up here, but he doesn't need to worry about hiring and firing." What Larry would have to worry about was a stacked rookie class he'd be competing against. He'd be matched against Greg Biffle, Jamie McMurray, Casey Mears, Tony Raines, and Jack Sprague, all with extensive experience in NASCAR. "The rookie class looks really strong with a lot of top young guys that I raced against in the Grand National Series," said Larry. "I know there's no lack of talent there. For me, I need to get seat time, and I want to run up front. Top 20s for me would almost be like a win." Hero cards printed for the 2003 season featured a dazzling yellow and purple paint scheme with Harrah's logos on every corner, but by the time the team unloaded at Daytona, there had been a noticeable change. Harrah's logo over the rear tires was much smaller, leaving much of the quarter panel blank. This lopsided look to the car would remain for the entire season, making way for associate sponsors that never joined. The Foyt team had made the last 3 consecutive Daytona 500s with 3 different drivers. They would not make their 4th in 2003. 2 years removed from his first ever start at Daytona, Larry raced his way into the top 10 during his qualifying race, only to run out of fuel and stall the car. With no cautions to bunch up the field, he finished just 22nd of the 25 drivers out of the 500 field. Not only was his the fastest car to miss the field, but also the only full-time entry to be sent home. "This is not the way we wanted the season to start," said Larry. With 43 cars entered for as many spots the next week at Rockingham, Larry bounced back to make the show. He finished 36th, 5 laps down, then failed to finish his next 2 starts. During qualifying in Atlanta, Larry's car handled so poorly he gave up on his timed lap. At Darlington, on the day Ricky Craven bested Kurt Busch by 0.02 of a second, Larry finished 32nd, which ironically was his best finish of the season. Then he failed to qualify at Bristol, already his second DNQ in 6 races. "Winston Cup is the toughest place to come and learn, especially since I have only been racing stock cars for a few years and racing full-time for a few years," said Larry. "I think the biggest goal for me is just qualifying for these races. These are going to be tracks that I have never been to. That's going to be really tough. You don't have a lot of time to get up to speed and learn the racetrack." On March 27th, in advance of his home race at Texas, Larry participated in a Meals on Wheels event promoted by his sponsor. A year earlier, he delivered the foundation a brand new Dodge Dakota truck painted purple and yellow. This time around, Larry delivered meals directly from his number 14, led by a police escort. He surprised Rosie Moncrief, wife of former state senator Mike Moncrief, with a ride in his car. "When I arrived this morning, I thought I'd be riding in a PT Cruiser," she said. "I was extremely excited getting to meet him and ride with him. I'm absolutely pulling for Larry." That weekend, Larry also debuted an inverted version of his Sam Bass designed paint scheme, purple with yellow accents, that would remain until the season finale at Homestead. In the scheme's debut, Larry sped his way into the Texas field, taking 35th on the grid. "I'm glad we're in," he said. "Our car has been handling pretty decent all day, but we haven't been lightning fast and we've struggled with speed, but the car has been driving good. Hopefully we can get a good race here and just get a top 25 finish." He took home 30th. At Talladega, Larry had a chance to secure a starting spot, but his time was disallowed when his brand new car was found to be too low in tech inspection, sending him home. AJ then withdrew the team from Martinsville. The first report was this was to focus on a test for Richmond, but as always, AJ cleared the record. "The deal they did to us at Talladega was a big f***-off deal, so f*** them. I'm like Dale Earnhardt was when he was alive. Those f***ing plate races suck. NASCAR is so crooked. Whoever you are, I don't care what you say. If you can't see that, then you are blind. Why should you take out that many cars if you were racing?" He continued to voice his displeasure at restrictor plate racing. All it is anymore, restrictor plate cars, is a glorified IROC race. That's all it is. If you are going to go racing, then go racing. But if you want an IROC race, then just call it an IROC race. I've never been for plate racing. I never will be. It's just like racing back to the yellow. I'm glad to see Jeff Gordon speak out against that. Racing shouldn't be who is a complete idiot on the yellow flag. It's a different ball game than it used to be. It's not getting any better, it's getting worse. Finally, he vented his frustrations with NASCAR's inconsistent officiating. He specifically took issue with Matt Kenseth slowing to let his teammates get a lap back coming to the caution at Texas, and how Dale Earnhardt Jr. didn't get a yellow line penalty for his pass to the lead at Talladega. More people are waking up to NASCAR, but they are afraid to speak out. I have nothing to lose either way. The yellow flag thing is a bad deal, and one of these days someone will get killed over it. I don't care what you write about. I call a spade, good or bad. That's how I feel about plate racing. What has happened the last 3 weeks, it's something different every week. I think the world of Dale Earnhardt Jr., and I think the world of Tony Stewart, but whoever that judge was should be thrown out of the organization, or should be the judge of a bathroom whether boys or girls go in. If he looks at the yellow line thing and says it was right, then he was wrong. At Fontana, Larry nearly made it to the finish, only to be collected in a 7-car pileup with just 19 laps to go. But the next week, his Richmond test paid off. He nearly hit the wall during his qualifying lap, but still managed to bump Hermie Sadler from the field. He also ran 17th of 27 starters in his first Winston Open, 3 spots short of avoiding elimination under the system instituted at the time. This helped him take 29th in qualifying for the Coca-Cola 600, his best so far that season. All the while, Larry tried to keep things positive. It's been hard and we've struggled a bit, but I really feel like we're starting to make some gains, he said on May 22, 2003. We're really looking forward to the second half of the season, where we can apply what we learned in the first half. On June 1st came Dover, where Larry finished in 28th, the first time he'd come home better than 30th in a cup race. He was still just 42nd in points, and had yet to finish within 4 laps of the leader at the checkered flag. The next week, after early brake failure left him 41st at Pocono, news came that the team would hire a road course ringer for Sears Point. Once again, they'd call upon P.J. Jones, who looked to follow up his 4th place run the previous year at Watkins Glen. Since Larry doesn't have any experience on road courses in the stock cars, I didn't think it'd be fair to have him to compete against those guys at this point in his career, said AJ. I've known PJ for years. I used to race against his father, and PJ's proven he's a strong road racer. 1 week after Larry failed to qualify at Michigan, PJ wasn't fast enough on the road course, though his car did have a distinct engine note.
There he goes. He's got those crossover headers. Now he's coming down here into turn 2. Up the hill. Now right here, you're going to grab second gear. Get back in the throttle as soon and as hard as you can. Run across here second. Probably stay in second. Come through here. Come around this turn. Maybe he was carrying some speed there. Normally you would shift into third gear and maybe off the turn 2 over there, but I think these guys are keeping it in second gear the way it sounds.
And I think the telltale sign we heard the rev limiter kick in, which is that box that has a chip in it, lets you only turn so many RPMs.
Well, the least amount of shifting you can do, the better off you are. Somebody told me one time that stock car drivers have a tendency to use the gearbox too much, to try to slow the car down. They need to learn to use the brakes just like you do on a short track and only use the gears for going forward.
I'm going to tell you what, guys, though, we've had 31 cars qualify, and you see right there, he's 28th quickest. He was only 41st quickest in practice. This car has to qualify in the top 36. They are out of provisionals until their attempt in 2 weeks at Daytona, because they did make an attempt at Martinsville a few months ago.
He could get off of here, Larry. It would be not too bad.
Way off in the S's. The only car I've had in the 16-second bracket, with the exception of the cars that spun over there.
Larry made his first Cup start at Daytona, finishing 34th the night fellow rookie Greg Biffle scored his first series win. He also made the next round in Chicagoland, where the team had to change engines. The race didn't go much better.
What's going on? Car in the wall, turn 4. Larry Foyt.
Got one in the fence behind you. One in the fence behind you. Caution is.
The caution flag is out, and Foyt drops down off the track into the grass and out of harm's way.
I hate it for Harris. We had a lot of people here today and had a good car qualifying and blew up yesterday. Had to change the motor, so I kept telling them I was loose, and that's about the 4th time I wrecked. I just saved it the other times, and that time I just couldn't save it.
From there, the focus turned to the Brickyard 400, where Larry had made no secret of his desire to race. At New Hampshire in July, the team switched to car number 50. This was reportedly done to celebrate AJ's 50th year in racing, but was actually a calculated decision to save the number 14's last provisional in case it was needed at Indianapolis. Loudon's qualifying was washed out, the new number sent them home anyway. From there, the team often loaded their car without any number decals and added them at the track. The number 50 finished 29th at Pocono, then swapped back to the number 14 for Indy. Larry then took his first laps at Indy during a test session leading into the 400. I think the only time I had been around the track before that was when I was about 5 years old, and Dad took me around it in a station wagon, he said on August 2nd. When I went out to drive it for the first time, I told my spotter to make sure that there was no one coming up behind me, because I might take it a little slow and enjoy the lap, and I did. During qualifying at Indianapolis, Larry put up a first lap of 178.45 miles per hour, but felt he slowed on his first lap due to some rain in turn 3. With a loose handling car, more trouble awaited him in turn 1.
Or go to Carfax.com.
Whoa, hang on. Boy, saw that coming.
Larry Foyt in trouble. And in a lot of trouble to make the Brickyard 400 field, because they are way down in owner points and the provisionals are not likely to get back that far.
I knew I had to get in on speed, so I probably tried to make it up a little too much, he said. He made the race with his last provisional. That same day, Ken Schrader at BAM Racing failed to qualify for the first time since Riverside in 1984, a streak of 579 consecutive races. In the race, Larry finished 32nd, 4 laps down. Curiously, PJ Jones was not brought back to Watkins Glen, and Larry failed to qualify the returning number 50. Larry fared much better in his return to Michigan. Bouncing back from his DNQ in June, he timed in 14th, his best start of the season so far. Transmission woes stopped him short of the halfway point, and he ran 39th. Larry broke through at Bristol, picking up a 10th on his second qualifying lap to make the show, but in the race he was involved in a pair of accidents. It was now September, and the team continued to make changes. First Ben Holm, then Greg Connor, who at the time was Robert Presley's Truck Series crew chief, would step in as Larry's crew chief, replacing Butch Lamoureux. During the change, Larry failed to qualify 4 straight times at Darlington, Richmond, Loudon, and Dover. He now had 10 DNQs on the season, failed to finish 7 times, and had now attempted his last race in the number 50. The number 14 would return for the remainder of 2003. At the end of the month came the fall race at Talladega, where Larry qualified 35th. He was finally in the show, only to be injured in an early crash with Jeremy Mayfield.
When the tire came apart, Larry Foyt first, I'm sorry. Yeah. And then the jam up behind him.
Larry broke his left wrist, bruised his right kidney, and had the wind knocked out of him. He was flown to University Hospital in Birmingham for precautionary measures. He was released and cleared for Kansas, though another driver was on standby. Mark Green, the middle brother of Busch Series champions David and Jeff Green, had been Larry's driver coach and consultant since he got into stock car racing. Mark also served a similar role to Casey Kane at Aikens Motorsports, successfully preparing him for his own Cup debut in 2004. Coming into 2003, Mark had 168 Busch Series starts but had yet to make a Cup start of his own. His work with the Foyt family had given him his first opportunity. In 2001, he came just short of qualifying for the Napa 500 at Atlanta, 1 year after Larry tried to do the same. With Larry's injury in 2003 came 2 more chances, but Mark failed to qualify at both Charlotte and Martinsville. Larry's 12th DNQ of 2003 came in the fall race at Atlanta, where this time his car completed its timed lap. He then made back-to-back starts at Phoenix and Rockingham, and both times he finished 28th, finally matching his career best run at Dover back in June. Heading into the season finale at Homestead, Larry had been voted by Cosmopolitan magazine as North Carolina's hottest bachelor, but this had been one of the only highlights of his most difficult season yet. He'd started just 19 of the first 35 races and never finished better than 28th. He was, however, not the NASCAR champion that season. DNQs held him to just 2 last-place finishes, which actually tied him with 6 other drivers for the second most behind Derek Cope. But after running R&D engines for Evernham Motorsports all season, the deal paid off. The Foyt team was given a race-ready Evernham Dodge to run at Homestead, where they'd also run a new paint scheme. The team was told to not change the setup, just add Larry's seat and go racing.
Hey, how about Larry Foyt? Sorry, Mike, but that's a great run for Larry Foyt. 11th quickest. That would be his best qualifying effort the entire season. Great run.
That is a great run for Larry Foyt, and I'm afraid is going to be the undoing of Kyle Petty's chances to make the race on Sunday.
Yeah, because right now, Mark Martin and Dale Earnhardt Jr., they've been bumped in the provisional land, and right now, with one car to go, Matt Kenseth is on the bubble.
And that's what we're talking about, Mike. He got up on the wheel when it counted, and he made it count.
Previously, 14th at Michigan has been Larry's best start of the season.
That's great. I'm so happy, and I bet you there's no one in that garage area that's not happy for Larry Foyt right now.
So it was go or go home, and he went.
He did it.
Great run for Larry Foyt. Well, they have reason to celebrate.
Yep. Last race of the year, not a better way to finish off the season and make the race and give yourself an opportunity for a good finish on Sunday.
The result was by far Larry's best weekend of the season. He started 12th and finished 16th. Ray just really wanted to help us out, said Larry. We have been really struggling with our cars this season. It was a great day for us. We ran on the lead lap all day, which we haven't done all year. Despite the strong performance, on November 28, 2003, just 11 days after the season finale, Harrah's confirmed that they would not return to the Foyt team in 2004. Ben Holm left the team as crew chief, soon to be replaced by Keith Coppinall, who would lead the team into the Nextel Cup era. The plan was to enter at least the first 3 races of the season at Daytona, Rockingham, and Las Vegas. The Navajo white-colored car would still run engines leased by Evernham Motorsports and would again be run entirely out of AJ's pocket. On February 15th, Larry gained sponsorship from the LPGA Tour, which was looking to increase its visibility. The car was decorated with photos of players Laura Diaz, Christy Kerr, and Natalie Gulbis. In the race, Larry moved into the top 25, but a misfire in the engine from a loose spark plug wire dropped him to 28th at the finish. The team made the trip to Rockingham, finishing ahead of nearly all the field fillers by taking 32nd, 2 spots behind Derek Cope. The team then withdrew from the following round in Las Vegas and would ultimately cancel their trip to Darlington. In March, the team looked to add Bristol and Texas to their schedule. They ran decent in their March 16th to 17th test at Texas, running within 2 to 3 tenths of Bill Elliott and Dale Earnhardt Jr. But another setback awaited at Bristol, where both he and Jamie McMurray had their cars confiscated by NASCAR for failing technical inspection. Larry's penalty was for a non-approved roof that didn't fit the templates. The team only had their superspeedway car as a backup, so they decided against making a qualifying lap, putting them out of the race. At Texas, Larry received welcome sponsorship from Smith Chrysler Dodge, Fort Worth Harley Davidson, and Insurance Auto Auctions. While AJ was in Indianapolis for IRL testing, Larry made the race and finished in 30th. But even that weekend wasn't without controversy. Crew chief Keith Coppinall was fined $1,000 for an oversized fuel cell found during pre-race tech. Adding salt to the wound, NASCAR confirmed that the number 14 team would be docked 25 driver and owner points for the confiscated car at Bristol, a car that was still sitting with McMurray's at NASCAR's Research and Development Center. It was less surprising then that by April 23rd there was news that Larry Foyt had turned his attention to the Indianapolis 500. After 5 difficult years in stock car racing, he would finally have a chance to compete in the greatest spectacle in racing. He wouldn't do so alone. A year earlier, his cousin AJ Foyt IV had made his IRL debut and his first start in the 500. By then, AJ IV was already a national go-kart champion who joined the USAC Silver Crown Series when he turned 18. He later drove for Ayrton Dare in the Infinity Pro Series, where he won the inaugural championship. Larry tested an open-wheel car at Indy for the first time on April 26, 2004. The car was bright red, just like his ride in Formula 2000. "It's everything I thought it would be," he said. "This place is obviously so special. I've been here every year of my life, and this is just the coolest day of my life. It's amazing." Larry joined the same rookie test as Ed Carpenter, even though Larry was exempt due to his NASCAR experience. "I think he really enjoys it because of the way we've been getting screwed around back yonder in NASCAR," said AJ, surely thinking about his confiscated race car. "He hasn't had no breaks down there. It's all politics." At least publicly, Larry didn't share his grandfather's frustrations. "I still really like racing NASCAR, and I'm really happy there," he said. I had a lot of fun today. I wasn't planning on having that much fun, but I still think right now I'd like to have a home in NASCAR full time. I sure would love to run the double too. Larry did want to run the double that year, but nothing came together for a Cup ride. On May 30th, 2004, Larry Foyt qualified for his first Indianapolis 500 with a 4-lap average of 213.277 miles per hour, just behind AJ Foyt IV. Both were eliminated early in the race, but it was still a supreme accomplishment for the family. As the season continued, Larry served as his cousin's spotter and had designs on returning to the Brickyard 400. In July, Larry did test a stock car at Indy, but this time for Rick Ware. It didn't go well. He wrecked in the same first turn as in 2003, damaging the right side. Ware didn't have a backup, so the test and the attempt was over. By October, the number 14 returned to the Cup Series, but not with the Foyt family. John Andretti, who happened to be AJ's godson, had picked up a ride with PPC Racing, who wanted to run the number and use its owner points for the race in Charlotte. Andretti got permission. AJ had made clear he no longer planned to enter any Cup races. The number 14 would continue to change hands over the next 5 years before it found its current home at Stewart-Haas Racing. As for Larry, he ran 16th in the 2005 ARCA opener at Daytona, but only one Busch race and 3 truck starts followed. He'd make 3 consecutive starts in the Indianapolis 500, but never finished any of them, and never ran better than 30th. In 2007, Juan Pablo Montoya became NASCAR's Rookie of the Year, having scored his first win at Sears Point. The open-wheel invasion began in earnest, and drivers like Dario Franchitti, Patrick Carpentier, Max Pappas, and AJ Allmendinger signed with Cup teams to match their skills against the sport's best. Today, Allmendinger is just now entering the prime of his stock car racing career, years after all his predecessors, including Montoya, faded from the sport entirely. Some, like Franchitti, considered their time in NASCAR as a mistake, but I'm not sure Larry Foyt feels that way. Yes, he was rushed up the ladder entirely too fast. Another season in ASA and another in Busch could have made a big difference. And yes, he never truly was able to focus on racing exclusively, whether as a college student or in his many roles keeping his father's NASCAR teams in business. Maybe things would have been different if he made his IRL debut earlier, but during the dark days of the split, NASCAR seemed the best choice. And with all this working against him, Larry still did get to live his childhood dream by competing in the Indianapolis 500, and like his father, even got to run the Brickyard 400. And his experience running his own teams prepared him to become team manager of AJ's open wheel program in 2007. Today, he's team president. Larry may not have carried on the Foyt name in the way he had once envisioned, but perhaps this is the way he was meant to. So what do you think? Do you think Larry should have stayed in open wheel racing? Was NASCAR a mistake from the outset? Or do you think he would have found a home in any one of the series, whether it was ASA, Busch, or eventually the Cup Series? Maybe even the Truck Series? Make sure to leave your comments down below. As always, thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe for more content. And in the meantime, keep an eye out for more videos about lesser-known drivers and teams from NASCAR history.
You know, seeing this is the kind of thing that puts me on the fence about retiring car numbers. In the case of an icon like Dale Earnhardt, I think it's appropriate to set that number out. He'll always be number 3, just as Babe Ruth was in baseball for the Yankees. And that number's not retired. It's issued to Richard Childress and put on hold. But it's kind of neat to see a race car out here with number 70. And think of longtime NASCAR independent campaigner J.D. McDuffie, who ran that number with success for many, many years. Kind of nice to be reminded of that.
In America, there exists a sport that is driven by the fans. They are why everyone works so hard, on the teams and at the tracks, in front of the grandstands and behind the scenes, to give the fans the greatest race possible. NASCAR fans deserve the best, starting from the high banks of Daytona, all the way to the shores of California, and at every race in between. NASCAR fans, you're the reason for our success. Thanks.